Illini Drive. I'm your host today, Gabby Hajduk. Joined with me, the new on-air editor for the Daily Illini, Josh Pietsch. Josh, you have a new role.
I do have a new role.
You took over Brendan last week. I'm not sure if he talked about it much on the air when he was on yesterday, but you are the new on-air editor. How does it feel? Are you excited? Nervous? What's the mood?
Well, it feels pretty good. I was really happy to get it. And honestly, I'm not nervous yet. I feel like maybe I will be, like maybe the first time I'm editing a podcast and uploading something like that, maybe trying to get a guest. But I mean, my favorite thing to do is talk about sports. And now I am in charge of doing that on the radio and a podcast. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to do a great job. I think Brendan has taught you well.
Yeah, shout out Brendan for everything.
Shout out
Love
Brendan.
you, man.
He's the GOAT.
He is.
You're the mini GOAT right now, so
I'm on my way.
You're on your way. No, I'm excited for you. I'm done with sports editor now, and Jackson took over my role, so it's actually been very nice this weekend not having to worry about anything.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jackson, I know it's like the busiest time of the year, but I've been relaxing, focusing on baseball and some basketball stuff. I'm just chilling.
Yeah, just a shout out on the radio to you, Gabby. Literally the best editor I could ask for. So
Wow.
Shout out you. It was an awesome year. You literally dude, I don't know if everyone realizes, you came in and about a week later, the world blew up and you were the one that had to handle transitioning everyone into covering sports through COVID. So for those that don't understand, Gabby did something that 99.9999999% of people could not do. So Huge shout out to you, Gabby. You're awesome.
That's so nice. Thank you, Josh. Enough of the sappiness. I appreciate it. And I know you're going to do a good job, but let's get to the real good stuff of the show. Illinois won a Big Ten championship
Heck yeah, they did.
for the first time since 2005.
Oh, yeah.
How incredible.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
I was in shock. Kind of still can't believe it. Every day I'll be in a bad mood. I'll be like, wait a minute. We won a Big Ten championship.
I feel like based on how they were playing down the stretch of the season, I'm not that shocked. But
Really?
It's still like, I don't know. I think it's still like amazing that they actually pulled it off because that's hard to do. I mean, they've won like their last how many games? I think they won how many in the Big Ten tournament?
Three in the tournament, and then
they were
4 after Michigan State.
So they won their
7.
last 7, and I think it's like last 14 out of 15 or something.
Yeah,
like,
because if Michigan State didn't happen, they'd be on a 50. Exactly, yeah, 15.
They needed a loss in there. It's okay that they lost to Michigan State.
So Carson Gordy, former assistant sports editor, texted me, and he said, should we lose today? And that was about an hour before the Ohio State game started, like the Big Ten championship. I was like, what? And he was just like, man, if we win, history is against us for the national championship. I don't know what I said, but I was just like, no, I want to win.
Yeah, I don't think we needed to lose. I think it was good that we lost that one, or that they lost that one Michigan State game, because I do think it was a little wake up call. Like,
yeah,
every game's not guaranteed, and as unfortunate as it was that Iowa went down, it gave other guys a chance to really come into their roles. And when you think about it, like, they got hot and they are hitting their prime at the best time.
They're peaking at the right time.
They're peaking at the right time.
I don't think they've peaked yet. I truly believe that. I don't think they've peaked yet.
Really?
There are still moments where I think, especially during the Ohio State game in the second half, where I'm like, no, they're not there.
That's true. I do think like the Iowa, Ohio State, those back-to-back games were like very telling of like, this team is legit.
That is really tough to do, to win those games back-to-back.
And think about the games they won before that. Like, think about, obviously you go in, you dominate Michigan. You dominated Wisconsin before that. Then you go in and you beat Ohio State on the road, one of the hottest teams in the country at the end of the season. And then you go in, handle Rutgers easily. Yep. You win not like handily against Iowa, but 11-point win. Like, that's pretty significant over, again, one of the best teams in the country. And then you take Ohio State to overtime and beat them twice in less than I think it was like a week span.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a week and one day.
I think, like right around a week. Like, that's just an incredible slate of games that you just played, and you played some of your best basketball ever. And I don't completely disagree with you on that. They're still they still haven't hit their ceiling. I think they're close. I think were right around the peak. But I do see where you're coming from. Where like there were a couple plays and a couple like, span of minutes in that Ohio State game where I'm like, they can play better than this. You
Regardless,
know what I mean? It's like,
whether they hit their peak or not, I think I can pretty confidently say I think they're good enough to win a national championship, even if they have peaked.
I agree. I'm not confident that they're gonna win, but I agree that they're playing at a level where they could.
Yeah.
If they continue playing at this level, they most certainly could. Obviously, we know March Madness is crazy and that, anyone can upset anybody at any time, but I think they are on a good path to win it all potentially, which is crazy to think. Like if you would have told me 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, Illinois will be good. They'll be in the tournament and they'll be like a top 7 seed, the number 3 overall seed. Like, I think that's just so telling of what this team is about right now. And I want to touch on this. I know this is kind of just like we're just kind of doing a rant about Illinois basketball right now.
No, that's what we should be doing.
But who was the guy on Twitter or on I think he was on ESPN maybe or some show that was like Illinois has chemistry issues.
That definitely wasn't ESPN, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Everybody has seen it. Everybody has seen it.
I think
the biggest joke I've ever heard. That's someone just trying to have a hot take and hopefully maybe a 1% chance of him being right.
He's not
to
right.
say that Illinois basketball has chemistry. Illinois basketball invented chemistry.
They did.
Who? Isaac Newton, or maybe that was physics. I don't know. Whoever,
Gabby.
Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, whoever it was, I don't care. Illinois basketball invented chemistry.
Yeah.
This team is, you look up chemistry in the dictionary, it's Io, Kofi, DeMonte, Trent, whoever you want to throw, whatever teammates, friggin' Brandon Lieb can be the picture. I don't care.
Brandon Lieb.
This team embodies team chemistry playing for one another.
They love each other so much.
And I hate all the salty Iowa fans when Marley Weirda, she's a WCIA reporter, she tweeted a picture, spot the difference. And it was when an Iowa player was shooting a free throw and Illinois does this thing where they all kind of put their arms over each other. Yeah. And Iowa's players were just standing around. And I don't think it was a diss at Iowa at all. That wasn't the point of the picture to me. The point of the picture is how together this Illinois team is. They truly play for one another. That shot that DeMonte made at the end of the Ohio State game and the way Io just ran up and hugged him. Io doesn't, sure, Io's going to make that dagger shot 95% of the time. But he's going to be just as happy, probably even happier when his teammate does it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think this team looks incredible right now. I think they're going to be very hard to stop. They can be stopped. They do have weaknesses. We've seen that so many times, but it's hard to stop them right now.
Illinois is not perfect, but no one's perfect.
No.
I like to say that. I saw a tweet that says we got 6 left, and it's a tough 6, but it is definitely not tougher than at Wisconsin, at Michigan, at Ohio State, Rutgers, Iowa, Ohio State. That 6-game stretch is 100% harder than the 6-game stretch coming up, in my opinion, if Illinois is fortunate enough to play all 6. Because you think about it, right? It's going to go Drexel, probably Loyola, probably Oklahoma State, either Houston or West Virginia, Baylor or Ohio State, then Gonzaga, right? That's probably the predictable path right there. Yeah. And it's tough. Believe me, you have probably 5 top 20 or 25 teams in there. But still, in my opinion, I think that the 6 that they played before this was almost significantly harder, honestly. The Big Ten's just tough. I wonder how the Big Ten's going to do in the tournament, by the way. There's a good chance they dominate.
I think so. I think it's so hard when, you look at the Big Ten every year and it feels like the Big Ten only gets stronger every year. But I almost feel like the Big Ten plays a different style of games. I just feel like games are a little different. Just the way the refs go and, I think just the physicality. So it's sometimes when you don't have a game like that and you don't have a game that's super physical, you think that's going to be an easy win, but sometimes it's not because then you're getting fouls called that aren't normally called or things like that. So I think it can go both ways when you think about if the Big Ten's going to dominate. I feel like you can make that argument like almost every year, and almost every year it doesn't happen
True.
just because of situational stuff. And again, the Big Ten, I feel like teams play a different style. Like things are just different in those games. But I think the biggest thing, and we can touch on this too when we talk about our Final Four at the end of the show. But like everybody's argument with Gonzaga is, oh, well, they haven't played anybody. That doesn't mean they're not like one of the best teams in the country still. So I think it is just very situational when you get to the tournament. I think you have to throw almost everything about the regular season out the window. And the tournament really just obviously it comes down to talent and team chemistry and things like that. But it really comes down, or talent and like team makeup and things like that. What I think it really comes down to come March Madness time is your chemistry, what are you really playing for? Like I think about, and I hate to do this, but Oklahoma State with Cade Cunningham. He's not the best teammate. Like, he's a great player.
Yeah, I've heard about some of that.
He's a great player, not the best teammate. I mean, you see him, like, he yells at his teammates, argues with his teammates, like, on the floor. You can't do that. Like,
it's weird when your captain's a freshman, right?
Yeah, and I feel like, he's obviously one of the best players in the country. He's incredible, but that's not what wins you championships. Sure, that'll win you awards and that'll get you a spot in the NBA and whatever. That's not what wins you championships. So obviously he's going to take Oklahoma State pretty far, but a team like that versus a team like Illinois or even a team like Iowa, I would say is a very together team. You can tell that. Like they all play for each other too, or even, in Ohio State. Those are the teams that ultimately are going to go farther than the Cade Cunningham teams. Hopefully, knock on wood, obviously. But that's
for our sake, yeah.
For our sake, yeah. But that's just my little rant about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's kind of obvious, right? Especially, I've probably never watched as much college basketball as I have this year because I've always watched Illinois, but being in a house full of sports fans and obviously talking about sports 24/7 now, I've like branched off a little bit to watching, more ACC, more SEC. And you're right, Gabby, the game's different. It is totally a different game, which could be good. I don't know. I mean, like, you watch the non-conference games and it doesn't seem that different, but then just watching, like, Illinois and Wisconsin battle it out versus North Carolina and Florida State, like, I don't know. It's just really different. And that's what makes the tournament so hard to predict, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it is just every league, and I think plays a different, especially when you look at college basketball. I think when you look at like college football, obviously like the SEC, ACC is more competitive, but it's not really like a different game, I would say.
No.
Like it's different level of talent, but I guess you could kind of compare it to football because it's like, Ohio State is obviously the best team in the Big Ten every year, but like they don't play up to the level that Alabama, LSU, Auburn, teams like that play. You know what I mean? Like they all play like at a very high level. Whereas Ohio State's always going to be one of the best in the country, but they're not consistently facing that and being challenged like that. So I guess you could kind of compare that to like the whole Gonzaga situation versus like Iowa, Illinois, Ohio State, teams like that. But I do still think like college basketball is a whole different animal when you just look at playing styles and how refs call games and the physicality and the size of guys. Like, the Big Ten centers are just insane.
They are.
Like you don't see other leagues having guys like Luka Garza, Kofi Cockburn, EJ Liddell. I don't even know.
Who's the Purdue guy? Trayvon Williams. There's
like
another one.
It just seems like the Big Ten is just a big league.
Them and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Because Gonzaga always has the big guys.
Well, yeah.
Every single year.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this tournament is a really interesting one for that reason, just because there are so many Big Ten teams and there are a lot of good Big Ten teams. But also, like, this is a 2-year drought now that we haven't seen anybody in the tournament. We don't know how any team's going to respond. I feel like every team in this tournament has a clean slate.
A little bit.
You know what I mean? Because there's, like, nothing about last year to remember. Like, remember when Arizona, like, lost? They were, like, the number 1 seed. Was that Arizona?
You're talking about Virginia. To UMBC.
Yeah. And they lost. And then it's, like, that was the whole storyline the next year. It's, like...
And they won.
I feel like there's not that huge storyline, or there's not that big thing, well, this happened last year. there's a clean slate. Obviously, you have the storylines of, oh, Illinois hasn't been to the tournament in this long, or, Iowa this, Gonzaga this, Michigan this. But I do Hunter Dickinson. That's the center I was missing.
From
I remember, when I was talking about the centers. But so I do think that like there is kind of that just this is all fresh and new.
Yeah,
I think it's exciting.
It is really exciting. I mean, I think that. I mean, you also have like Illinois still, because obviously they were going to make it last year, but I think that it's almost better for them that they didn't, because like, were they going to go on a run? Yes, 100% in my mind they were. But now they still have the thing, oh, we haven't been here since 2013. That's an even longer drought and more doubters for us, because we all know Illinois plays better when there's a chip on their shoulder.
Of course.
Right?
They create the chip on their shoulder.
I love that people are going to take Oklahoma State over Illinois just for Cade Cunningham, because that means that Io and Trent and DeMonte and Grandison, the guys that are going to try covering him, are going to be like, oh, you don't think we can do it? Okay, well, you'll see what we can do. And then that's when they play their best, right?
Mm-hmm.
The game that they were most doubted this year was at Michigan. They won by 28 or 23 or whatever it was. So you didn't take them. They go to Minnesota, which is almost impossible, but clearly not, to win in. Even you took a Minnesota on the radio, which I'm getting food for in about an hour.
Yes,
and then,
that is correct.
And boom, they win by almost 30. Or I think they did win by 30, actually. I think they won by 31. So there you go. Like, I just think that the clean slate, haven't been to the tournament, some random analyst saying that Illinois is going to be the first team out, I just think it fuels the fire, and I love it. I love it.
I agree.
All
right, we're going to head to our first break, and when we come back, we're actually going to shift away from basketball for a second. We'll come back at the end, but we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears. We'll be back on the Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive. Again, I'm your host, Gabby Hajduk, alongside Josh Pietsch. Obviously, it's a big basketball week. March Madness starts in approximately 2 days. Super excited. But before we get back to basketball today, we're going to talk about the other big Illinois sports news that actually just broke this morning.
It broke about an hour and a half ago, actually.
I guess this afternoon, yeah. I can't laugh, or I can't think about it without laughing, because I've been listening to my two roommates, Brendan and JJ, argue about it and talk about it and probably cry about it for the last 2 hours. The Chicago Bears have signed quarterback Andy Dalton to a 1 year.
I shouldn't have asked you to talk about this. I'm so upset.
To a 1 year contract. Let me give my take as a non-Chicago Bears fan first, and then you could go for it. Okay,
I might be a while, so you.
Yeah, let me just talk. Obviously the Bears are going to let Mitch Trubisky walk, or that seems like what's going to go down, and because they signed Carson Wentz to 3 years, right?
Carson Wentz, you mean?
Oh, not
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
Yeah, they got 2 more years out.
So last year, they went and signed Nick Foles for 3 years. Kind of a hefty contract for Nick Foles for 3 years, right? Keeping Mitch Trubisky, wanting them to battle out a quarterback. They kind of flip-flopped all year. Injuries obviously brought Nick Foles back in at the end. Just the Bears didn't really do much after the start of the season. And now Bears fans think they're getting Russell Wilson. Instead, they get former Bengals, former Cowboys backup quarterback Andy Dalton. And as someone who has watched Andy Dalton play a lot of his career, obviously he played against the Steelers, and the Bengals were never good. So Andy Dalton really never had a staff where you could kind of see his potential. Andy Dalton had potential in the middle of his career, in the prime of his career. He's old and kind of washed now. He never was able to fulfill, I think, what he hoped to fulfill with the Bengals, but now you're just throwing him in to place a Band-Aid on the Bears organization. So now you just have two old, washed-up quarterbacks while you're trying to kind of rebuild your offense. It really as a impartial Bears person looking at the Bears, it's laughable because like, what is this organization doing? First, again, obviously the biggest mistake is even drafting Mitch Trubisky in the first place. And then to bring in competition for him, you bring in Nick Foles, who ultimately like takes the starting job after like the first game or two.
It was during the Falcons.
And then you go back to Trubisky. You try and go back to Trubisky because Foles isn't doing it. Trubisky gets hurt. Now you have to go back to Foles. Like, and then you go out and get Andy Dalton. What is the point of that? Why not just try and get a quarterback that you could build in the draft? Like, why spend money on Andy Dalton? It's just embarrassing. Like that organization and Ryan Pace, they are stupid.
Is it my turn?
You can go.
All right. I'd just like to first start by saying that the last 4 QBs that Pace have gotten have been Mike Glennon, Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, and Andy Dalton. Gabby, spot the difference.
Can't.
All right. Just how now we get that out of the way. All right. So we go back to last year, right? Where Trubisky, people are angry with him. I was angry with them. They bring him Nick Foles, which I wasn't pleased about, but I said this is a stepping stone year. That's what I thought of last year. I wasn't too mad. I feel like that's what a lot of Bears fans thought. They saw Cam Newton's probably not going to do it. Nick Foles did win a Super Bowl. Let's just stepping stone here. Maybe he'll, outperform himself, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I saw one guy from ESPN, and it came up today. But I remember this tweet. He said, why pay that much money for Nick Foles if you could have just signed Andy Dalton for cheap? A year later, man, is it coming back to bite him. Because this is one of the worst signings in recent Chicago sports history. I am so mad about it.
Yeah.
Stop giving your money to the wrong guys. The Khalil Mack trade is fine. Whatever. I know that for some reason people are mad about that. I understand it, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. The big contract that they gave out last year was Robert Quinn, who was supposed to be like the Bears had one mission, get to the quarterback. This dude had like a half a sack this year. It was awful. He had 4 tackles through like a certain amount of games. It was awful. And then this year you go out and you're supposed to be trying for Russell Wilson. Apparently they made a push. I really don't buy it, by the way. But then you settle for Andy Dalton when you could have just went with Foles, who's the same quarterback, and then drafted someone later to be your backup. Jalen Hurts was a 3rd round pick, and now he was their backup and he was the starter. For people saying this is just a backup move, 1, why pay a backup $10 million? And 2, why not just draft someone? I have no idea what Ryan Pace is doing. I have literally no clue. There's not one positive reaction. Usually on ESPN or on ESPN Plus, they'll be like, oh, we're going to rate this. And usually they're like, oh, fans are mad, but this makes a little bit of sense. Not one analyst has said one semi-good thing about this signing. I'm furious.
Because there is nothing good to say. That's the thing. It's like there's not one positive of this.
There isn't one positive. No.
Because it really just proves that this Bears organization has no clue what their future plan is. And they just keep slapping these. It's like, it's like Lovie Smith era. He just keeps slap the transfer Band-Aids on, hope one day it builds into something. It never does. It's like that's what the Bears are doing with this quarterback situation. It's just like keep throwing them there and try and use it as a building block. And nothing's working because these building blocks aren't good. They're
Nick
you're trying to put a brick. You're trying to build bricks and you're using like wood.
Nick Foles and Andy Dalton are the same quarterback, basically. Yeah. So why not just draft someone? Pace?
And Nick Foles is better.
Why not just what's his name? Kid out of Florida. He's he's still white, but he's a little bit bigger. Is it Kyle Trask? I think his name is.
Yeah.
Why not draft someone like him in the 3rd or 4th round if we're going to do another stepping stone year? I get it. They tried to trade for Russell Wilson. And if they really did, I applaud you. But that doesn't mean you go and sign Andy Dalton of all people.
No.
Come on. When he played for the Cowboys last year, when Prescott was hurt, did he do anything besides get hurt? I know he got hurt, Dalton.
I think he had one good game. And by good game, I mean he completed some passes.
So he has 3 solid quarters of being a quarterback in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's who Ryan Pace says, oh, let's give this dude $10 million. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be upset too. Like, I don't know. I just don't think there's like any reasonable explanation for why you pick Andy Dalton. You know what I mean? Like, there's literally zero upside. You might as well just have not even drafted a quarterback and just ride with Nick Foles.
And then some Chad Haney type backup.
Yeah.
Like whoever.
Like, doesn't even matter who your backup is.
You're not going to be good this year. Who cares?
Anyways.
Apparently,
like,
doesn't matter being good anymore.
Yeah. Like, they're not even trying to, like, build for the future now. Like, you can't just, again, like I said, you can't just keep slapping these old quarterbacks onto the roster and hope to, like, turn it into something. And what is, like, you're going to start to have guys like Allen Robinson or, you know, whoever else, like, not want to play for the Bears.
If Pace doesn't, I mean, I know they franchise tagged Robinson and that was hopeful.
Yeah,
but if they don't end up paying him, like, what? Your fire base is fanned up. Your fan base is fired up. Excuse me. Your fan base is fired up for all the wrong reasons. You're losing your fan base, Ryan Pace. I mean, I don't blame Nagy for this. I think this is all on Ryan Pace.
Yeah,
he's got to go. He's got to go.
He's not going to though. They've said time and time again, like they're happy with him and his decisions. What is there to be happy about?
Who in the clubhouse is like high-fiving each other after this and being like, "Good deal, guys"? I just don't see how it's possible. I feel like there are alternatives in every single way to what they just did.
I think that what they should have just done is if they didn't like anybody else on the draft boards or in the market, then just ride it out. Build up your offensive line, build up your offense, add some young defensive players in the draft and free agency, and then build those guys through next year and then go get a quarterback because you're probably not going to be good. So you have a low draft or a high draft spot, go get a quarterback then. Like, no one, Nick Foles nor Andy Dalton are going to help you win next year. So what's the point in spending the money when you could spend the money on younger guys at less like skill positions? You know what I mean? Like
$10 million is a lot of money.
Yeah,
too.
like start trying to build it with young guys or guys who just got let out of their rookie contracts or things like that. Like as much as I hate to say it, like they should have tried to go get they should try and use their money to go get someone like Juju or, you know, like some prominent like free agent guy and put some like weapons into your team. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I don't really follow the Bears besides just what you, Brendan, and JJ talked to me about, which I guess is a lot. So I feel like I follow the Bears more than I really should. And I know too much about the Bears now, but like that would have seemed like the smarter decision to me is save the money on the quarterback, just throw Nick Foles out there again, pick up some random backup, pick up freaking like Josh Dobbs or someone, like who cares, and then use that extra money again to build your draft board, to get younger guys, to get some guys in there that can fill holes and, you know, bulk up the O-line. Like, that's what you're going to need for when you do go get a young quarterback that you're trying to build.
It's just really disappointing. I mean, the Bears just seem to always be stuck in mediocrity. You had the one complete fluke year in 12-4 because of Vic Fangio and the defense.
Yeah.
Mitch looks little bit better than he is. I think Mitch is gone now. He's done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's what it seemed like.
He's a free agent now, isn't he?
I think so.
I think he's done. I don't know. Like, I saw a tweet. It was like asking for Russell Wilson is like asking for a PS5 and then getting a PS3, Andy Dalton, when you already had a PS4 in Mitch Trubisky. It makes total sense in my head.
Yeah.
I think Trubisky's better than Dalton. I'd rather have Trubisky for sure than Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who's been harder on Trubisky than anyone.
Well, yeah, we keep going back to this, but there's literally just no reasonable explanation.
No, there isn't. Between the money,
like, I want a statement.
The comparisons to everyone, I would love a statement.
Like, I would love a statement.
I cannot wait for this introductory press conference.
I'm excited for that. Like, again, I really do not care about the Bears. I feel like I do now a little because I'm so invested in this horrible management that I just can't wait to see how this goes down. Like, I can't wait for the reason.
Same.
I can't wait for it. Like, it's unfortunate because you guys are all Bears fans, but the Bears are literally the laughing stock of the NFL.
Maybe this will
and that's
give
hard.
me...
That's hard because there's a lot of things you can laugh at. There's so many things like the Texans, even the Steelers right now. You can very much laugh at them because their cap situation is god awful because they just keep restructuring Ben's contract. Like, just let him go, make him retire. There's a lot of things you could be laughing at in the NFL right now, and the Bears are the biggest one, and that's hard to do.
And what year was it? I think it was 1985. The year my dad, he was like 16 or something. He's about as big a Cubs fan as I am, Bears fan as I am, all that. And the Cubs just made him so mad with how they performed in the playoffs that he took a year off, or he took 2 years off actually watching baseball. And I told myself I'm too big of a fan in every sport to do this. Even through all the terrible Bears years, I watched every single game. Even when the Cubs were bad from 2011 until 2014, I watched every game. Maybe this will be my excuse to take a year off the Bears.
I think
maybe this will be my excuse.
You need a fill-in team. My fill-in team this year, because the Steelers are going to be bad, are the Cardinals.
Well, my second favorite team, the Buffalo Bills, because of Josh Allen.
That's JJ's fill-in. Me and JJ are hoping that the Cardinals and the Bills meet in the Super Bowl.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the Cardinals are my fill-in team because they're on the opposite. They're in the NFC.
And I'll go Bills.
And you'll go Bills.
Well, I root for the Bills anyways, though. It's kind of the way I root for the Trailblazers in basketball.
I've never really had a second team because the Steelers have always just, never failed me. They've been failing me lately. So my backup team is, and I'm putting this on the air now, so come NFL season, nobody calls me. I'm a Cardinals fan. I'm a standing Cardinals fan.
I became a Trailblazers fan when Damian Lillard got there, and the second Josh Allen got drafted by the Bills, I became a Bills fan. They were terrible, and now Josh Allen might win MVP next year. So, yeah, I mean, I'll never stop watching the Bears, but as a diehard fan, which I am, I'm disappointed, to say the absolute least. This is awful. Terrible.
I agree.
Yep.
All right, we're going to go to our last break, and when we come back, we are going to break down our final 4 picks for March Madness. Stay tuned for those. This is Illini Drive. All right, welcome back to Illini Drive. For our final segment of the night, we are going to go through our final 4 picks from March Madness. I'm going to throw it right over to Josh. Josh, give us your 4 picks. Who's going to end up in the final 4? And, of course, who's going to win and why? Give it to us.
Yeah, so I'll give you my 4 real quick. I'll give my reasonings for them, and then I'll give you my future picks. So out of the West, I have Gonzaga. Out of the South, I have Baylor. Out of the Midwest, I have Illinois. And out of the East, I have Texas. So I know, 3 number 1 seeds is, kind of cliche or whatever. But I definitely think that this is the one year that is justifiable. Because in my opinion, there are 3 teams that are a level ahead of everyone else. They're all on the same, on the same floor, and everyone else is just a little bit below. So this is my years that I've never picked this many 1 seeds, and I'm doing it this year. So I feel like Gonzaga's pretty obvious. They've beaten the 2, the 3, and the 4 in their region already kind of handily. And even though, they're in the WCC and they haven't played anyone for 20 or so games, they had a little bit of a scare against BYU. In my eyes, for enough of them as I've watched, it's going to still take a major upset to get them out. So Gonzaga's pretty easy. Baylor's a little bit different because they looked like probably the best team in the country the first couple weeks. Obviously, they beat Illinois by 16 or whatever. But they've got a pretty tough region, obviously led by OSU, who Illinois knows all too well. But then again, they have the best backcourt in the country, and they defend like nothing I've ever seen before. And I trust Scott Drew. So even though Ohio State's a good pick too, I'm going with Baylor. The Midwest, Illinois, in my eyes, has the second easiest path to the Final Four after Gonzaga because I think that Loyola and Georgia Tech match up terribly against Illinois. And then once you get past Oklahoma State, who's clearly the toughest 4 seed, if you get past them, West Virginia and Houston are, in my eyes, easily the easiest 2 and 3 seeds to play. So assuming they beat Oklahoma State, I really like Illinois. And now, all right, so here's the East. Michigan just hasn't looked the same since Illinois blew them out without Io in Michigan. UConn as a 7 would be a lot of fun to put in the Final Four, and I see a lot of people doing this. Florida State's pretty good too, but I only have them barely squeaking by Georgetown in a 12-4 game. I really like Texas. I think they Andrew Jones is a really fun story. Matt Coleman's a good guard, and they have two solid big guys that can block and rebound. I think they're pretty well balanced. They really have like three pretty good guards that they play. I'm not 100% sure about their size, but I think they're going to beat UConn in an amazing game and then beat Michigan in the Elite Eight and get Michigan out of there. So I have Gonzaga and Texas, Baylor, Illinois, and then the first Final Four game, Gonzaga and Texas. I think Gonzaga will handle Texas. I don't really think it'll be close. And then I do have Illinois winning a classic against Baylor. So my final is Illinois and Gonzaga, which is, by the way, probably the most common final I've seen out of the experts, which is pretty cool. And by a score of 84-77, I think that Illinois is winning their first title ever. So
really,
though that's my prediction. ILL, baby.
All right. I have some similar stuff to you, so let's go through it.
All right.
And this is like a rough bracket. So like I might change this by Thursday.
Sure.
We could also talk about that Thursday if I do change it.
All right.
So right now my Final Four is Gonzaga, Alabama, Arkansas, Illinois.
Interesting. Arkansas, huh?
I
All right.
hate to be the one to say this, or I hate to tell you this, but I don't really have a reason behind Arkansas. I just feel it.
Okay.
I feel it in my bones, okay? I originally had Ohio State beating Arkansas, but that'd be too unfun to play Ohio State and Illinois again in the Final Four, because how can you beat a team 3 times? And I have Illinois going to the championship round. So I kind of just went with Arkansas. Sue me. I don't really know. I don't have a reason for it. Sorry. I do have a reason for Illinois obviously making the Final Four. I think their toughest challenge actually won't be Oklahoma State. I think you have to let Cade Cunningham do his thing, and you just have to produce on offense, which I think they can do. I think the biggest challenge is actually going to be Houston.
With Calvin Sampson, the cheater that took Eric Gordon away from us back in 08.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'll never forgive him.
I think Houston's going to be the biggest challenge, but I think Illinois gets through it, and then they're going to beat Arkansas in the Final Four. I just think Illinois is playing at too high of a level right now. Obviously, things can change. You know, they're going to have like 5 days off. 6 days? 5 days off before their next game. And sometimes, you know, when a team is playing that hot, it really just takes a small break to cool them down. But I don't really see that happening with Illinois. I think they have enough guys to where if one guy does cool down, another guy can step up. On the other side, Gonzaga, Alabama. I think Alabama is another team. Alabama and Arkansas are both teams that are also just really hot right now. And they're some of like the most interesting programs. I think when you look at Alabama, it's just so funny when you look at their football team and their basketball program. Like typically the basketball program doesn't live up to any of the hype that the football program produces. I just think it might be their year to like really make a run in the tournament. And then you obviously have Gonzaga, and they're just so dominant. And I know that, like I said earlier, the argument is that they haven't played, you know, a real opponent in a while, but that doesn't really take away from the fact that they're one of the most efficient offenses in the country. They have size, they have quickness, they have defensive intensity. And that's the thing that, you know, the most cliche phrase is offense wins games, defense wins championships, but it cannot be more true. And I think that's why you see Gonzaga and Illinois end up together in the championship. Two really strong defensive teams. Who has the better offense? Gonzaga. That's why they win.
All right. So you have Arkansas, who
Yes.
I happen to have losing in the round of 32 to Texas Tech.
Okay.
And you also have Alabama in your Final Four, who I have losing in the round of 32 to Connecticut. So we definitely got some differing points here.
See, I have Texas beating BYU, but then losing to Bama. And then who was your other team?
UConn. I have Texas in the Final Four, but I have UConn beating Bama.
Okay. And who do you have winning in the South?
Baylor.
Oh, okay. See, I have Arkansas beating Baylor in Elite Eight. I don't think Baylor has it anymore. I think they've lost their spark. Arkansas has the spark. They beat Alabama. They have the spark.
Yeah, I still think that Baylor is a level above everyone. I think Baylor's in that Illinois Gonzaga category.
That Brett Bielema connection is why I'm feeling in Arkansas.
That is
Illinois
100% justified. I like that a lot.
Like, I'm just feeling that connection.
All right, that'd be pretty cool.
Don't ask me why. I just feel it.
Do you know
Shout out
the story about Calvin Sampson, Houston's coach? Do you know about all that?
I do not.
All right, so
you could tell me it.
You know Eric Gordon, obviously the guard forward for the Rockets, 3-point shooter. He was verbally committed to Illinois for 9-10 months, whatever it was, and then Calvin Sampson, who's Houston's coach now, I'm pretty sure that's his name. He gets hired at Indiana, and he gets hired at Indiana, and in order to steal Eric Gordon, he hires his AAU coach to bring him over. So Eric Gordon goes to Indiana, ends up being like the 4th pick in the draft or something. Do you know who would have come with Eric Gordon? Most likely to Illinois if he would have stayed.
Yeah.
Not Derrick Rose. Yeah, Derrick Rose. So basically, this guy brings over the AAU coach and gets Eric Gordon. So not only does Illinois lose out on Eric Gordon, also loses out on Derrick Rose. And then later in his career, Calvin Sampson has recruiting violations, like similar to like Bruce Pearl stuff. Like him and Bruce Pearl, the biggest like scumbag coaches. They're good coaches, but they don't do it the right way. So I have a lot of issues with Calvin Sampson. And I hope that if Illinois gets the chance to play him, they whoop him. So
I agree. I hope Illinois whoops everybody. I think it'll be fun. I don't think they're going to be Gonzaga, but I also wouldn't put it past them. I don't know. They're a special team. I think they're just a very special group to begin with. So again, we watch Illinois all the time. So, we see that all the time. There's a lot of other teams like that. There's a lot of other teams out there who have the chemistry and who have that fight that Illinois does. And I'm excited to see those teams in the tournament. What I am upset about is the fact that Illinois will most likely, if they win in the first round, play Loyola. Like, that just makes me sad.
It does, especially because Loyola is by far my second favorite team. I don't know if I told you my sister graduated.
I freaking love Loyola.
Yeah, me
Sister
too.
Jean.
Yep.
My girl.
And my actual
sister. And she's going
sister.
to be there?
Kind of sucks that we have to beat them in the second round. That really stinks.
I know. Imagine if we lost.
Yeah, that would stink. That would really stink.
That would hurt more. That would hurt more than anything else.
Yeah. All right, so something I want to point out. My dad pointed this out to me yesterday.
Okay.
After Drexel, pray for Drexel, by the way. That sucks that they drew us. That really stinks. After that, every game could like really mean something. Like there'd be like a story behind it following Drexel. You want to hear it?
Give it to me.
So if they play all the higher seeds, so if Loyola wins, Loyola is the only team from the state of Illinois to ever win a national championship, and it's your in-state rival. That one kind of makes sense. Then if Oklahoma State wins through, you're playing the best player in the country and Brad's old school. So there's a little bit of behind that. If Houston gets through, you get the guy that stole Eric Gordon from you.
Yep.
If Baylor comes through, that was your first loss of the year, and you get to avenge like the team that some people are still saying might be better than you, the one team higher than you. Besides then, Gonzaga, if they went out, they would be the only undefeated team, and it would be like 1979, where the non-Big Ten team is undefeated, and the Big Ten team beats them. That's what happened with Indiana State, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson, Michigan State. So there's just like a little bit behind everything, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's not just like, oh, this is a game, like some random like Texas Tech or Arkansas. No, like there's something behind it, and I really like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just a special year for Illinois. Like I've said, I think this is just a special team that, things just mean a little more to them. Things mean a little more to Io and just his pride and, what he wants to accomplish before he heads much deservedly to the NBA. So it'll be interesting. We'll be back Thursday to kind of preview the Illinois matchup a little deeper. Obviously looking at Illinois' path a little further into the tournament. So thanks for sticking with us today. Bears fans, hope you're doing okay out there.
We're not.
Praying for you guys. We'll talk to you guys Thursday. This has been Illini Drive.